Trump's former spin doctor and once right-hand man, Anthony Scaramucci. Really good to have you on the show. And look, I want to get your views on a range of things, but we've got to start with Biden and that ice cream. We know what, PR disasters look like. We have plenty of them here in the UK, usually involve bacon sandwiches and Cornish pasties. Was he just unlucky getting that question with an ice cream, or is it a sign of something more?
Did it make him look weak with the ice cream, or what was it? I mean, I don't know. It seemed like he was on a late night show to attract a young demographic, and they put him in an ice cream store. Listen, I would take him eating ice cream over Donald Trump eating Soviet kielbasa any day of the week. And so, you've got a mission critical situation in the United States, because the return of Donald Trump would be a disaster for the country, a disaster for the United Kingdom. It would put enormous pressure on the Western alliances and the global world order. And so I'll take Mr. Biden any day, in any shape and form, and whatever he wants to eat. And I do hope he's correct about the ceasefire.
And that was the main criticism that was levied at him. He was talking about ceasefire in Gaza. Starvation, of course, is abound there. And he had ice cream sort of halfway up to his mouth. It could just have been unfortunate, but the intention is there. Look, you mentioned Soviet there, so I want to pick you up on that, because you've actually described Trump in recent days, given the way that he handled Tucker Carlson going to interview Putin, etc., as weak and craven. Do you stand by those comments?
Well, I stand by the comments, and I'm glad that you brought them up so that we can have an opportunity to talk about them on your show. I mean, he is a lapdog for Vladimir Putin. He's been very clear about that. He's also told people like John Bolton and General John Kelly that he would do everything he can to revoke NATO in a second term. He tried to pull that off in 2020. And thank God he wasn't president 2 years ago when the Ukrainian invasion took place. And your viewers need to understand this, because they have experience in British history with Neville Chamberlain. They understand that weakness, when you're dealing with dictators, is an ultimate disaster. You never get what you bargained for with them. The Obama administration believed that Vladimir Putin was going to stop with Crimea. They were going to let him have that warm water port there. But he didn't stop there, and he won't stop in the Ukraine. And I think it's very important for people to understand that this is a battle for freedom, and this is a threat to the European democracies if this is allowed to continue. And so Donald Trump returning to the White House, he will, he'll hurt the Ukrainian government. They'll likely lose that war. This will make Putin stronger, and this will also weaken the situation in the Middle East because of Putin's relationship with Iran. So a lot of dominoes would fall here. And yes, I do think he's weak and craven, among other things.
And look, Putin has actually said in the last few weeks or so, reportedly said that he would prefer to have Biden stay in power because he's more predictable. I suppose he thinks he can play him more like a fiddle than the unpredictability of Trump. But who knows?
Well, you don't believe that, do you? Do you believe that he believes that?
I don't personally, Anthony. I don't. I believe that he is doing that in order to embolden Trump's base. Yeah.
Of course, he's an Eastern. Just remember, he's a East German KGB agent. Go back to the 1980s, and you'll understand exactly who Vladimir Putin is, and all of that psyops. He was successful using those psyops in your country with the Brexit. He's been successful in my country creating the tribalism with all this sort of information and tribal splitting that the KGB and the GRU is capable of. And these are real dangers to the American people and the citizens of the United Kingdom. Yep. And so it's very important that we talk about it with great clarity so people know what the warning signs are here.
Absolutely. It's all an information war. And he's doing it in order to manipulate and interfere in the election processes, and overtly by making comments. Look, in terms of, you've mentioned a few times the way that Britain is handling things. So I'm interested to get your opinion on our very own former flash-in-the-pan Prime Minister Liz Truss, who went over to CPAC last week and was interviewed by Steve Bannon, amongst others, at the conference. What did you make of her doing that?
Listen, I don't know her. I heard from some people when I said that she lasted 4.1 Scaramucci's. She was sore about that. I guess she didn't take that with the good humor that it was intended. But I sort of put that out on Twitter. I heard from a few friends in your government that said she didn't like that very much. Listen, Steve Bannon, thank God he looks like that. I mean, my God, because he is another danger to the civilization. And her being with him is just a sign of really bad judgment. So again, I don't know her personally. Apparently, she doesn't have a great sense of humor. But just seeing her in the photograph that you're putting up there, or the video you're putting up, it's obvious she doesn't have great judgment, because Steve understands Trumpism better than Donald Trump. Steve is a student of history, but thank God he looks the way he does, in that whole contemporary hobo design of his life and so forth. Thank God, because otherwise he would be another danger that we'd be facing.
Sorry, just putting myself back together. Very unprofessional, but you got me there with that one. Look, well, we've got to talk about Trump's likeliness for the Republican nomination, because it's not all smooth sailing. He's got some 200,000 fewer donors than in his last presidential campaign. Of course, he is campaigning on this Operation Lawfare, this sort of witch hunt, as he's terming it. It does seem that the more criminal trials he's involved in, the better he's doing.
Well, a couple of things. I think that the Alvin Bragg case actually helped President Trump. We're just being objective, because that case seemed fairly specious to any observer. And so it's given him some air cover on the more serious cases, which include the insurrection case and the election interference case. You've also got this documents case where there are people in our intelligence agencies that believe that he's really harmed the country, because some of that information, we believe, has leaked out to our adversaries. So to me, I think those cases are serious, but it just shows you what's going on in the country, that he still has this ardent support. There's a very large group of people that feel left out in America. They were once economically aspirational. They now feel economically desperational. And so they cling to Donald Trump. But you're making a very important point. He's running out of money. He's upside down. He is spending more money than he's taking in. He's got these very large judgments against him in the city of New York. It's unclear how he's going to pay those. And so there's trouble there. But the most important data point in the last four votes, during the primary season, is that you've got a good 25% of the people that identify as Republicans that say under no circumstances would they vote for Donald Trump in the general election. And this is very important, because you need the crossover during a primary. Secretary Clinton, Hillary Clinton, did not receive the crossover vote from Bernie Sanders in 2016, and she lost that election. It was a narrow loss, but she lost it. And Donald Trump's base just isn't big enough. There's just not enough angry white people in the country, elderly white people, I might add, to push him over the top for the presidency right now. So it's going to be very difficult for him going into November. Listen, these are two guys that obviously shouldn't be running, given their ages and the general nature of what's going on. But we're stuck with them. I would choose Joe Biden. I would choose elderly over insanity any day of the week. Or somebody mentioned it was sort of weekend at Joe Biden's. Well, I would take that over One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So to me, if that's our choices, I'm going to stick with somebody that believes in the global international laws and the world order as it was constructed after World War II, which has generally made us safe and prosperous.
Elderly over insanity. You heard it there from Anthony Scaramucci, ex-White House Communications Director. Thank you.